for general family viewing.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Beyond the Limit with me here, Zainab Mohammed. Today on this episode we'll be talking about special needs education, and to discuss this very important topic is the founder of Brook Center for the Deaf and Autistic Children, Timothy. Karibu sana Timothy, thank you for making time for us. Before I even ask you any question, I'd want you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, my name's Timothy Liani. I'm the founder of Brook Center for the Deaf and Autistic Children, which has existed for the last 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Timothy, could you tell us a little bit about the school?
Brook Center for the Deaf and Autistic Children is a registered charitable institution by the government of Kenya, way back 13 years ago. And it takes care of children with special needs, mostly children who live with autism, and children with non-verbal or who are non-verbal or have verbal communication challenges. So they are both boys and girls, and we've worked with over 427 children who successfully, some of them have reintegrated back to societies, others have proceeded to the current TVET institutions, which are very credible, and others have proceeded to different special schools depending on their needs, because the assessments are normally done on need basis. Others are in special schools for hearing impaired people. Yes.
So maybe why did you start the school? What prompted you to start? Why a special needs school, particularly for autistic and deaf students?
Children who live with special needs are vulnerable children. Especially, you realize a situation where I can't be able to communicate. So when I don't communicate, sometimes I behave. And when I behave, sometimes people don't understand. So there's a challenge. When I live with special needs, it means I have a limitation. There are things I can't be able to do personally myself. So personally myself, I had an uncle who was autistic many years ago, but unfortunately when he was in his teenage age, he got missing. And he hasn't been found up to now. So this has been very tragic, personally to me. And I feel it's important for us to be sensitive, especially to persons who live with disabilities, mostly the children who could be flight risks, like they can run away from home and escape, and they are non-verbal. So you can imagine such type of a challenge. I run away from home, I get in the midst of people or strangers, and I can't communicate. So it means I'm almost getting missing. So that is how, and I tend to think that trend should end, because, like, apparently, Brook Center for the Deaf and Autistic Children is a stop for children who have been flight risks. There are children who have run away from their parents, but now they're here. Their parents can get them from here, right? So there should be an intervention. The other thing is, all of us as young people, we should also give back to our societies in the little way that you can. It doesn't matter that you don't have to be an individual. I think it takes a whole responsibility of a whole community to raise up a child. So the only thing you need to do is to have a good initiative, which has good values and love, and then everyone is going to join. So that is how Brook Center for the Deaf has been. So this is my way of giving back, and at the same time, all those other interventions are taking place. Yes.
So how many students do you have currently, and what is the criteria for students joining the school? How do you, I know you said the flight risk, but how are you able to enroll students here? Is it that people bring them? Yeah.
Okay, since we are registered as a charitable children institution, we work with children who are between the age of 0 and 18. So what needs to happen is once a child has been mapped to be mostly vulnerable in a situation that is very compromising, depending on the ability that the child has, then we work together with the children department, we work together with the police, child protection unit, to ensure that such a child finds an opportunity probably to be assisted. Sometimes they have to help us even map out children in juvenile, children who are convicted because of their ability. They have disabilities, and so they have to go through whatever is happening. So we work very closely with the children department through the children courts, who give them committal orders and care orders to bring them here so that we are custodians to take care of them. For children probably who will be having parents, then they have to ensure that they make us understand what is the main challenge we are facing with the children. And some of those services that we can give the children who have parents, we can still do them from their home. So it doesn't matter, it's not necessarily they have to be here. So the children who are brought here probably could be children who could be in very serious risks. Yes.
At the moment, how many students do you have? And probably you could tell us at one point or another how, at what, you said until 18, right?
Yes.
So at what point do they transit to maybe joining mainstream, joining, TVET and all that?
Yeah, since it's between 0 and 18, between 0 and 18, at any given moment you have an admission, you must prepare an exit strategy. So if you don't have an exit strategy, then you don't have to admit. Yes, so an exit strategy will vary since it depends also with the children and their abilities. So the rehabilitation process is totally different also from one child to the other. They vary, one child from the other, the learning abilities, others have learning disabilities, others have memory lapses. So each and every child, it's an assessment that is individually based. Yes, so they are likely to behave so differently. But then with the exit strategies, it also varies, because if children are brought here and then we have to take them through learning daily living skills, introduction to special needs, and then they are independent children. Now it's a mainstream process. So mainstream process, you have to go to the IAC, that is the assessment department of the government, the Ministry of Education, so that they can do a need-based assessment to ensure that now they get the next step of that child in terms of intervention in regard to education. So they could be children who have learning disabilities, but they could do something hands-on. So that is a line of vocational training and skills, which is the government is also putting emphasis into that. It teaches them how to use their hands and get skills and go to communities and reintegrate. For children who have hearing impairment, they learn like any other child. They are competitive. Even see some of them are in universities, and most of the institutions are also doing what we call inclusive education. And universities, colleges, learning institutions like CBC and so on. So there are children even here whom we propose that they should go for inclusive learning, because they can be able to bear the pressure in a normal setting of a classroom. Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about the foundational skills you teach here?
Yeah, foundational skills could range from language. Of course, you're born and you must learn how to communicate. There's no school you can go without learning how to communicate. Of course, that's the only way you can express yourself. That is how you can socialize. That is how you can complain if you have grievances, and so on and so forth. So you realize language is very important. Apart from language, you will realize they have other milestones, like they have no ability maybe to be able to feed themselves. or maybe clean up themselves, go to the toilet, and so on and so forth. So those are DLS, daily living skills, which are very fundamental in development of each and every child, irrespective of their ability. So those are very fundamental skills that they need to be given. And introducing special education curriculum is also a setting to give them a pace for their further education. Yes.
Maybe for the sake of our audience, could you give us a breakdown of what a day in this school looks like, from morning to evening?
A day varies. Yeah, we are not conditioned. This is how it's going to be, because we are working with children who have different challenges. Just the way I mentioned, in fact, in the first place, once a child comes in, there's what we call an integrated occupational therapy SWOT assessment that is supposed to be done, so that we know their abilities, their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and so on and so forth. So that one puts you in a picture of understanding who are you dealing with. So in the event you realize that you now understand who you're dealing with, like for instance with us, there are children with high attention, low attention, and there are children who are in early intervention, where you have to teach them how to toilet, you're even controlling movement, you're even trying to see if you can be able to work on their ADHD. Yeah, they have no eye contact, you know. Yeah, they have no social skills, they are loners, they just want to do things on their own. So these are things that you have to really be able to help them, so that you can be able to bridge the gap, to give them a meaningful life. Because it's basically giving them an understanding of the familiar world we're living in. Yes. So with a day, it depends, because this is a child who can wake up with an epileptic episode, and you had really planned to take them for mathematics lesson. So does it make sense? It does make sense. So you have to bring in other interventions and other skills to be put in place. These children learn the first few hours before afternoon. From around 8 to midday, you can capitalize on that, and you can have a rapport. You can have an understanding between you and them. Yeah, the first morning hours. But the moment it's in the afternoon, basically we involve them in hands-on activities. So this could range from maybe painting, or maybe coloring, doing stuff using their hands plus their brains. Yes. But the morning hours, we can have a rapport. We can talk. Please tell me your name. Please write your name. And someone can articulate by making sure that you have concentrated on a child to understand even one thing. Because working with these children, you focus on progress. Forget about perfection. You'll be very frustrated. Yes.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
a degree. So could you tell me why that is very important in this particular?
Yeah. It's very important to learn to toilet. And one thing I never knew even before is learning to toilet or going to the toilet and getting out of the toilet is obvious. It's not. It's not obvious. Yeah. And it's not very easy to assume that this child can take themselves to the toilet and back. So when I equate it equivalent to even a university degree, I mean, it can even take more than 4 years to train a child how to toilet. And some parents can even abandon their child because they don't know how to toilet. Yes, it can be so messy. So the only thing you have to understand is, who is this child? Do they give me attention? And how do I communicate to them? Right? Yeah, so teaching them how to toilet is very important. Most of the institutions, learning institutions, kindergartens and so on, they will always ask one question. Does he know how to toilet? If he doesn't know how to toilet, then they have questions around it. Others would term it as irresponsible parenting because they will tend to think you have not taught your child how to toilet. But it's not an obvious thing. It can be crazy at times. And some parents are overwhelmed. Yeah. Whereby it now involves people who can understand them properly, to make them understand that this is what you need to do. Yes, because that's public health. Yeah.
About running of the school, how many employees do you have here? I know you had also mentioned about volunteers. Could you tell us about?
Yeah, we have 7 employees currently. We have a population of about 24 children now. Excluding children we have sent to mainstream institutions. We've sent about 8. We also provide foster care facilitation to children with families that are willing to offer parenting, like be parents to such children who do not have parents maybe. So we have about 6 in foster care family. That's alternative parenting, which we also focus on to ensure that even these children we live with who do not have parents can be able to find parents, even in a foster care setting, because there's no best place like home. It doesn't matter how home is, but so long as it's home, that's the best place to be. So a number of children are in mainstream institutions. From Kurueni, we have Nile Road Special School, we have Jacaranda, and we have Nakuru Hill, where we send children, depending on their needs in terms of education. Yes.
Talk to me about funding, being a charitable organization, it's not for profit here. How have you been able to keep the lights on for 13 years?
Yeah, in the first place, being a charitable institution, there are organizations that have always stood with us. Yeah, this is an issue of dedication. We have to dedicate ourselves to ensure that we are focused on whatever is supposed to be done, and we are standing by what we need to stand for. So we have institutions that have been stood with us, like SC Johnson. SC Johnson is an international company. It has been with us for a very long time. We really thank them. We have no gifts for them, but we thank them a lot, big time. We have a Prodigy Pharmaceutical. This ensures that this place is clean. The children have medication, because most of their medication are very expensive, and we have to buy. There's nothing for free, And this is a child who is diagnosed with epilepsy and must take medication every day. Yeah. Apart from being epileptic, maybe they have psychotic, maybe kind of issues and so on. Others are gender-based violence victims. Maybe they've gone through GBV cases and they're under trauma. So there's a lot of also psychotic intervention. and medication and clinics. Others need neurological kind of attention, where you also need to take them. So Prodigy has been there, has stood with us, and has been buying medication for children, has brought detergents here, has made this place, you understand, children who cannot be able to toilet, and what type of environment probably you will expect. Some of you would not be seated here, right? So you realize those are people who stood with us. We have USIU. USIU has been very, very fundamental also. It sends volunteers here, more than 10 volunteers, who are in line with what we do. Because this could be psychology students, pharmacy students, students doing epidemiology, students maybe doing psychology, and they would really bring in their skills to be very helpful to the other staffs and caregivers. Apart from that, we partner also with the community, because you might also find people who are interested just to give back through a service. So they could come in the process of assisting the children. They're also learning what type of society is this, and the children and the challenges that they're facing, and so on. So USIU has been very fundamental. Each and every year they have to do a project with us, which is in line with the help to the children, ranging from their needs. We had Central Bank that did their fencing for the flight risk children, children who are escaping. We have IOM, the seats we are seated on, were donated by IOM. Yeah, it was a competitive process though, but we managed and we got an opportunity. They donate maybe used items and stuff to ensure that they're in line with what could really be helpful to the children. Besides that, we have families and individuals who have just stood up. They've stood up still to ensure that they pay our power bill, they can pay our water bill, and so on and so forth. Apart from that, we also have the community, which is the church. The church community has also played a very big role. They pop in once in a while and would donate stuffs ranging from maybe foodstuffs, clothing, and so on and so forth. Yes.
Challenges. What are some of the challenges you as a founder and the school faces?
Yeah, we have a range of challenges. I think challenges range from short-term and long-term challenges. So with short-term challenges would just range from maybe this medication has been changed to this, or maybe extra children have been brought, and how do we work on our budgets? Or maybe there's a child who is in need of this attention, but now we have a challenge to execute this. It really presses us down. And though we really try our level best through our networks to ensure that we get help to execute whatever is ahead of us. Challenges range from the basic needs provision of the children. Of course, we try and manage through our networks to get to see how do we get this that we need. And through our networks, we've always been very successful. Though I tend to think it's something that should be steadfast. It should be something that should be there. Like, it should be there. There should be no doubt. Yes, it has to be there, So in the event that maybe it's not there, or maybe you had no plan for such a thing, then that poses a challenge. So that's a challenge. Basic needs. And equipments are a problem. Sometimes they're very expensive. And I wonder why, if I can ask you one question. Did you pay to walk to get into this place? Then why should you charge a wheelchair? That's a question. Why are outlets outside there charging wheelchairs? I think it's a right. When you get someone who is not able to move from one point to the other, you don't have to charge them. So charging them, I tend to think it's a little bit unfair. So someone somewhere, I don't know who is that person, should focus on that. The provision of these assistive devices should be made very free and very accessible. They should be made very accessible, just the way you can get a piece of bread from a shop. Yes. I tend to think medication should be brought down. Because if you know I'm epileptic and I'm likely to live with this condition the rest of my life, then why are you hiking the prices of my medication? And why should you make it difficult? Because you know very well, if I don't take this medication, I will convulse. 2-3 times, I get into comatose and I can lose my life. So why should you actually charge this? So some of these medications should just actually, it's the subsidies we should be talking about. They should be made as accessible as possible, as cheap as possible, and as available as possible.
I totally agree.
Apart from that, there are other things like challenges we face, maybe transport. There's a lot of discrimination when it comes to, I think, public transport, because someone drooling and someone next to you is having a very fancy suit. So it's like, I don't want to be in contact with this person until I reach my office. So I don't know what needs to be done, but the society needs to get a lot of emphasis in terms of sensitization to ensure that they understand how to accommodate and how to be inclusive. Yeah. So that even in terms of transport, being inclusive, all-rounded inclusivity. So we can talk about that. We can talk about accessibility, which should be made accessible to each and every one of us. With long-term challenges, since we are taking care of children and some of them don't have parents. So we ask ourselves, in the event there is no proper rehabilitation, there is no alternative family care, there is no further education, so what do we do? The exit strategy stops at that point. So probably we could, if there's anybody we can be able to work with in terms of mobilizing enough resources to put up probably a village for them where they can be able to stay and have a dignified life, where they can be able to live like any other person and have a facility to provide health care to them. You know, that would be very fantastic. Yeah, institutions of higher learning should also embrace them and should also introduce courses like that could be able to accommodate them, you know. And apart from that, institutions of learning should also involve them, even if it's not in education, but in terms of employment, right? In terms of employment, because I cannot learn, I can't speak, but I can sweep. So why don't you involve me? Yeah, so you don't have to discriminate me on the basis of that. So if I can be able to use my hands, I have been taught, I can use my hands to do something. Why don't you give me that opportunity? So I think all of us should rise to the occasion and make sure that that's possible.
Timothy, as we wind down, I'd just like you to, because I don't want you not to answer this question, which is very important. What are some of the gains and what does the future look like for this institution? Very briefly.
Yeah, gains are more, just the way I mentioned. We look for progress because I didn't know how to say my name. I can say my name. That's a progress. To me, that's a big gain. Yeah. I couldn't be able to step. I couldn't be able to stand. Now I can make a step. To me, that's a gain, right? I can sit in a classroom. I had ADHD with all the diagnoses that I will never sit down, I will never settle down, but I can sit in a classroom and listen to a teacher for even 20 minutes. That's a gain, right? Yes, so gains are that way. When it comes to, I think, the future belongs to all of us, because what we're saying is it takes all of us to raise up a child, and it takes all of us to be responsible. So I am seeing these children being inclusive, being included in societies, reintegrating, and more children coming back, coming in, and us helping many children and developing an action plan probably for all counties. Yes, because that's what we're focusing on. Yeah, besides Nairobi, because now we need to move to other counties and get to see how is Maralal, how is Kisumu, how is Busia, how is the approach of such children who are in vulnerable situations. and what are we supposed to do in conjunction with the government, stakeholders, and each and every person. In case of support, probably they can get in touch with us. Our phone numbers are 0725 627 380. We're also on Facebook, we're on YouTube. You can look out, check our videos, check what we post, get to see what we do, and we really appreciate it. Yeah.